So I wanted to start off by commending you for all your work.
Oh my, did you put my keys in the fireplace?
What is that, the remote?
No.
She has an addiction to the show The Office. She's convinced that she's in The Office. She talks and nods to an imaginary camera.
Five, four, three, two, one.
Shots fired at Fruitville.
We're just trying to get home. What is going on?
Next stop, Fruitville Station.
This is Bumpy Johnson. He's a legend. He took on Dutch Schultz back in the day.
I'm putting things back the way they were.
Times have changed.
I haven't.
I am curious to find out the path and the process to be a producer in film and television. What was the path you took starting in college to advance your way into the entertainment industry?
In college, I actually studied journalism. I was a broadcast journalism major with a minor in political science, and worked in that realm for a little bit and realized that, I don't think this is for me. And entertainment management, which is like a collaboration between the Annenberg School and the film school. So what was amazing was I thought my trajectory was I wanted to study media policy. And when I started taking a couple classes from the cinema school, it really sparked an interest for me to pursue film. So I have some friends in Hong Kong, Taiwan, and in Shanghai at the time who are working in action films. And they're actually the Jackie Chan group of people. And I'm like, would you guys give me a job? So I became an assistant to a director. I worked on several projects out in Asia, in Hong Kong and in Shanghai. And really from the ground up to understand what every single person did in the production, and from my point of view, I was just a sponge trying to figure out what every position did, what every craftsman did in the production. And that was my first real foray into filmmaking.
How does the path for producing films, like as you said, differ from television?
There's a big difference, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Producing film, your entire focus is, to me, on the screenplay. Now I have this incredible screenplay that I love. I have an attachment of a director or a star, and now I'm going to bring it out to the market. There's two paths. You can say, I'm going to go to the studio path, and what you do is you pitch the different executives at different studios and say, please help me make my movie. When you ask the studio, it's really about them financing your film. But then you take the notes from the studio executives, and there's a whole process. But if somehow your project is a little bit more challenging, there are really no comps for it in the business, and people are a little bit nervous about it, and say you get turned down across the board, there's also a path that you go, you know what, I'm going to make this independently. When I say make it independently, is you raise the financing, you budget it, you have to pull every resource you have to make the movie for the most sustainable budget on an independent level, but also without compromising the vision. And then we bring it to the festival realm, and then we launch it into the world, and hopefully a studio would say, we love it and we're going to buy it. So television, though, very different. Television is, I feel like it's more of a collective of people trying to put their head together and hopefully come up with something that's compelling enough for a studio or network to say yes to. And television is very driven by the showrunner, which is the writer, the lead writer. Whereas in the film space, the weight is really on the filmmaker.
So you serve as an executive producer on Godfather of Harlem. What are the differences between a producer and an executive producer?
So in the feature film world, the producer is the person who's in charge from beginning to end, whether it's development with the filmmaker to making sure the financing is intact, whether it's studio or private equity, to the pre-production and physical production of the film, to overseeing the post-production process, giving notes, to strategy and sales. That's a producer. We call it the capital P producer in film. In television, executive producer equates feature films producer. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Makes no sense, but it's supposed
No.
to. So the executive producer in television is the key role in the producing aspects. But then in television, there's two types. There's one called non-writing exec producer or writing executive producer. So we're non-writing executive producers. Non-writing executive producers in television truly equates to the producer on a feature film, because the writing executive producers in television are the showrunners and the writers. They're the people with the power because they have power to the pen, right? So
Yeah.
But in feature films, the executive producers, a lot of them are some are financing, some are talent, some are people who put the film together in certain ways but not fully produce. So there's just different ways of categorizing what an EP does in film.
So when you're actually producing a film, how do you interact with the various departments?
So when we start gearing up to go into producing a feature film, we set pre-production.
Mm-hmm.
Critical time period for the filmmaker and the team to get it right. And because once you hit the ground running on your film, your shoot date number 1, you should be prepared to go to war for the next 30 days. Right. But prior to that, usually if you're fortunate enough to have enough time to prepare the film, say we have 5 weeks to prep the film for a 5-week shoot. So during those 5 weeks, it's about 1, making sure all your heads of departments are intact. Like every department head is critical to be on the ground pretty much in week 1 of pre-production. Then they prep with you. You scout locations. You look at costume design and production design. Everything that comes with the logistics of putting the vision on paper into film. So the director becomes super busy and interviewing, resolving logistics, and the producers are there to say, let's look at the days. Or can we achieve these days? You work with the filmmaker and say, can we realistically shoot this many scenes? And we have to be thoughtful about the process. We also have to look at the budget. Are we going over budget? How do we manage it? Can we trim some areas, but are we sacrificing certain aspects? All the time in pre-production, you're solving problems or you're foreseeing what could be an issue and you resolve it before the camera starts rolling.
So how can I or other young adults in high school or in college or wherever, we maybe get involved in the entertainment industry? How do we get that foot in the door?
So one is you have to be true to yourself. Do you love movies? Do you love television shows? Do you love the storytelling aspect? Is instead of going, well, to some people, which is great because some people be like, I want to be in the film business because it's glamorous. Probably not the right path.
Yeah.
It's because as a producer, it is not glamorous. We're in the trenches,
Yeah.
But to get in the door is 1, you got to have a love for it. You have to love the story aspect. 2 is determining where in the film or television business you like to lean into. Are you a strong writer? Are you a creative writer? Or are you more of a director or writer-director? Or are you a cinematographer? Are you a craftsman? Some architects become production designers, So, or do you want to produce? But producing is not about the glamour, right? It's so you have
about the craft.
What area you want to be in. And like for you right now, what area do you lean into? Do you know?
I've tried writing, and I'll tell you right now, I'm not good at it. I'm good at the creative aspect of it. And I remember when I was the short film that I have, I am bad with scripts. I'm good with creating ideas for scripts, but I am not good putting pen to paper. So I think that I have a lot of ideas and I love to tell stories, not so much actually, write the words. So I think being a producer, that's why it's special to me, is because it's not about writing the words, but it's about creating the words and kind of getting it out in the world.
Yeah, you sound like you're going to the producer.
Yeah. Yeah, all right.
And the producer path is fantastic. We need more producers. We need more real producers who are willing to roll up their sleeves and do the groundwork.
I wanted to talk about your film, Fruitvale Station, a personal favorite of mine. Can you describe some of the creative decisions you produced in the film?
Well, Fruitville Station, we produced it. So Forrest Whitaker is my producing partner. We decided to take that on around 2011, which is 10 years ago. That's when I met Ryan Coogler. We wanted to do something that we haven't seen in the marketplace, also something that speaks to the state of African American young men in the country, what they were going through. We just haven't seen it on film. And when Ryan came through to tell us his passion about telling the story, being his first feature film, we knew we were up for some challenges, given that the business 10 years ago was really still not ready for a first-time filmmaker, especially a first-time Black filmmaker. And, because there were a lot of biases and prejudice towards first-time filmmakers in general. So I believed our first draft was around 150 pages. And when you make a screenplay, you would know, Matt, is that you can't go too long because people freak out on that. And that's what I do today. When someone says screenplay, I go look at the page count. And when it's too long, we just know that it's not as sustainable, especially when you're budgeting, and also what industry standard is. So we wanted to get the page count down to about 110. So that means we had to cut out a good, I can't remember, 30 to 40 pages. So we started discussing what we can forego without losing the integrity of the story. Ryan told us his ideal cast is Michael B. Jordan. And we're like, great. We've seen Michael in television roles, and he's, been acting for a long time. So creatively, that was our goal, is to get Michael attached. We went through the process of speaking to his agents and his team. He read the script, fell in love with it. He cried because it was so compelling that he attached himself. So the creative elements actually fell in one by one really nicely.
I've noticed there's a lot of, in your productions, it seems to be similar yet different types of genre. Like you made a documentary, Kid from Coney Island, but you also made biographical dramas, Fruitvale, and you even made Dope, which was a comedy. How was the experience producing all different kinds of genres?
Yeah, I'm really proud that we're able to do that, because the through line is authentic perspectives. What happened was, after Fruitvale Station, we got 50 projects of police brutality. And I'm like, we're not going to do another police brutality film. We're going to go do Dope. And everybody's like, what are you doing? And after Roxanne, I got every hip hop biopic. I'm like, we just did that. And we're going to go do Sorry to Bother You. And everybody's like, wait, what? But I love the fact that we are consistently pivoting. So we are tackling stories that haven't been told in different genres, but all with an authentic perspective, all with a very singular vision from a filmmaker. When you become a producer, you want to define what you want to do. You want to define what your mandate is and what kind of projects you want to produce. For us, Forrest and I are really clear. One, we're in the multicultural space. We want to be able to push narratives that subvert stereotypes for people of color. What really ultimately shaped the mandate of the company was Fruitvale Station. When a year later we're developing it, and then we're in production. In 2013, we launched the film. But even during that process, I remember seeing different cuts of it. And Forrest was sitting in the room with me, and we're in tears watching the different versions of the film. And he said, this is what we need to do. We need to champion storytellers that don't get the opportunity to tell their stories, especially filmmakers of color who are biased against.
Who inspired you growing up? What kind of filmmakers, television shows? What inspired you?
No, so early inspirations were just, I don't laugh, but I love martial arts films. I love films, which is funny because my first job is an action film. But that inspired me, but I never thought of that I can actually be in the business. But one thing that's important is as you grow into this business, Matt, is that take on any opportunity to get your foot in the door. Doesn't matter if the projects are corny or cheesy, because it's about that experience. You know,
Yeah.
in the early parts of my career, I didn't get a chance to pick and choose what I want to work on. It was more having an opportunity to be there, to live it real life, to be in production. For you, just it's about getting in the door, whether even a production company, reading scripts, giving notes, honing your skills of how to give notes, to a writer or a writer director. How do you become really sensitive in their feelings? How do you structure your words where you could get the ideas across without hurting someone's feelings? But those are skills that you can hone as a producer and getting your foot in the door. And also, when the pandemic is over, see what productions are available in your area, especially if you're in New York. It's like there's a ton of productions. Go and say, I would like to be a production assistant. I want to be a PA, and go apply and get your foot in the door to see what people do on a production, whether it's television or film. To go in as a PA is really important, because then you get to kind of live that experience, and then also know, what, I'm not really into that department, but all of a sudden you're like, I want to be in camera. And maybe you don't want to be a producer anymore. You go, I want to be in camera. Like I told you, I didn't know what I was going to do.
Yeah.
Every time I went to, I was like, oh, this is not right. But that's the blessing we have, is when you do that early enough, you get to make those, I don't even call them mistakes. I see them as experience of shaping what you want to ultimately do. So being in New York, there's so many productions, and PAs are the positions where it's non-union and that you can get into.
Do you have any tips to when you're working with a small budget, how do you adapt?
So how you adapt is that's when your producing hat is on. You're going to pull a lot of favors. You're going to pull a lot of resources through your favors, and but also building a team around you, because when you're in college and you're making short films, you're utilizing your peers and your classmates to pull it together. So it's not really about the money. I continue to pull favors for my filmmakers. And it's about coming up in the business and being kind to people, having real friendships and relationships, because you'll grow with your peers. And those are the same peers you're going to call on for those favors. So I can call on, whether it's heads of departments, craftsmen, actors, filmmakers, writers, executives, agents, managers. I will call on all those folks as for favors. But then they go, you know what? You've been good to us. You have a proven track record, have a good reputation. Those people will come through. So the moral to the story is, grow with your team, be kind to people, be genuine, make these friendships that are going to be everlasting in your career.
What's one piece of advice you would like to offer to your younger self?
One piece of advice I would offer to myself is to really trust my gut and my feelings and not doubt myself. Because in the early part of my career, I always thought that I wasn't good enough to be in this business. I wasn't strong enough to be in this business, and I doubted my own feelings about projects. But you know what? It's like I could tell my younger self that. I think back then I probably wouldn't even believe myself because I didn't have the confidence. That's just the experience. It's going through the experience, stepping on every landmine there was, but surviving it and still feeling good about it, and also having optimism. I always maintain the optimism of wanting to tell stories that can make a difference.